This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
On December 12th, Disney Plus invites you to go behind the scenes with Taylor Swift in an exclusive 6-episode docuseries.
I wanted to give something to the fans that they didn't expect.
The only thing left is to close the book.
The end of an era. And don't miss Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour, the final show, featuring for the first time the Tortured Poets Department. Streaming December 12th, only on Disney Plus.
In the darkest corners of the internet, a nameless, formless entity has been growing. No one dares question where it was created or what it wants, but those who have been entranced by its musings chant its blood-curdling name in unison. Horror Movie Night!
Find Horror Movie Night on your favorite podcasting app or at hmnpodcast.com.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to YAOK. I am Eric J. Brown, and I am here with Alyssa. Say hello, Alyssa.
Hi.
How are you? How you doing? What's up?
I'm good. I was just talking about how I had a mezcal beverage last night, and it has revisited me in like how you get like an echo of a drink if it's too strong. Today, I'm recalling that I had mezcal last night. So strange. But aside from that, it's a very nice day on the West Coast, and I'm so sorry that you're dealing with the snow that you are.
Yeah, well, we have 18 inches of snow outside ready for me to go shovel after. Oh, wow, look at the icicles hanging from my roof over the window here.
It is very picturesque.
I'm not looking forward to it. I'm ready for spring.
I'm sure. And, it's not that. It's kind of around the corner.
This snowstorm makes me want to be stranded in the middle of the Amazonian rainforest, honestly.
Yes. Oh, I have never agreed with you more than on that. And so the good news is if you cannot get yourself stranded in the Amazon, you can read about someone who did. And that is why today we were talking to Ellen Cochrane about Follow the Water.
Survival stories, she brought it up. She's like, why do we think we like them so much? And honestly, I think it's that like excitement, and it's kind of universal. Like, it doesn't matter what language you could even be having this survival story in. Like, say you watch like a movie and it's in a completely different language with no subtitles, and it's a survival story. It's like, you still know exactly what's going on because every human being has to survive somehow.
Yeah.
I love it.
Deeply human experience. And also, I was saying to Ellen, it's also kind of like you get that thriller vibe of like, you really don't know, like what, it's like anything could happen in the forest. Anything can happen every single day. And we heard a little bit about some of the survival tactics that were, had a lasting impression for Ellen. And actually, I will be thinking about that. Yeah, I will be thinking about that for weeks.
I mean, for life. It's going to come in handy one day. I mean, I hope not.
God, but I hope it doesn't. I hope I never have to use that that tactic for all of my life. But you guys are going to love hearing from Ellen. This has been such a great conversation, and really excited to grab her book. It comes out March 17th. So it is just around the corner. Yeah. Happy St. Patty's Day. Bye, Follow the Water, because it sounds awesome. Without further ado, let's get into our chat with Ellen.
5 long years, our lives like magnetic fields. You are my universe. You are my universe. And I'm just a planet.
Hi, Ellen, it's good to start talk with you. I'm excited to talk with you about Follow the Water because I think, Alyssa, you correct me if I'm wrong. I think this is the first book that is actually like based on a true story, because we've had like nonfiction before, but this is the first like fiction that is based on a true story, I feel like.
Yeah, and we had one other author who sort of like, I'm thinking of Natalie, who wrote about her experience leaving a like her home and her church environment and whatever. But that was very sort of lightly taken from her experience. So yeah, this is our first taken from a true story book that we've gotten to have here. So this is awesome. Yeah. So happy you're here.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here.
Can you start off by telling us like what your inspiration was and your kind of personal connection to the story is?
I can. It started back when I was 17. I was an exchange student to Peru, and I lived in Lima, and that's the same city that Julianne spent a lot of her childhood in. And I also flew on the same path that she did where her accident happened. And I've always been a journal keeper, and I kept a journal when I was in Peru. And I had read about her story with fascination, but I just kind of tucked it back in my pocket and didn't really think about it. And then, years passed. I did some work in business, and then I did some teaching, 20 years. And then I decided after I retired that I was going to go back to school and get a master's degree in science writing. And so I did. And, you write your science stories, and COVID hit. And I started cleaning out my house like most of America did, and I found my journal. And I had kept lots of journals as a youngster. And as you know, when you're young, you usually write about how much you are irritated by your parents. And this journal was a little bit different because it was about my time in Peru. And I started reading it again, and I remembered Julianne's story. And I approached my advisors and asked if I could actually write the story as my master's thesis. And they said, "Hey, it sounds pretty interesting." So I wrote it, and it was fascinating. I was very, very well trained by the science writing program, so it's intensely researched. And I also did intensely research it because I came across a huge problem that journalists often do, and that was the principal wouldn't talk to me. And I couldn't understand it at first, and then as I further delved into the story, I realized that she had been harassed significantly by journalists, telescopic lenses, going into her house, trying to approach her. People would come up to her on the street in Peru and want to touch her. And it was just she was so well known there that it caused a problem for her. It was so much so that her father did bring her back to Germany. And through the years, she would talk about it. She wrote her own autobiography, and then she did a little publicity around that. But after that, even very esteemed journalists would not be able to get an interview with her because she focused on her work as a biologist, and she worked in one of the libraries in Germany. And then she also, as her father grew older, she took over the management and the care of the research station in the Amazon. And she spent her life basically expanding the acreage of it. They own it, actually. They were actually able to purchase the land, her mother and father, way back when. So she had a really good foundation to start growing Panguana, which is the name of the research station.
Wow.
Can you tell us just what kind of, I guess, what the story of Follow the Water is, and also anywhere that it might kind of offshoot a little bit from Julianne's life, if it does, but like, just so our listeners can kind of understand what happened to her and what your book is about.
So Julianne Kopecky, and she's Dr. Diller now after her marriage. She was 17 years old, and her mother, Maria, was late on Christmas Eve in 1971 because she had booked a flight to go back to the research station to see her husband and bring the family together because they had been living there together, and Julianne had popped over to Lima to finish off school. Julianne had graduation ceremonies, and she begged her mother, "Can we stay one extra day?" And so they did. And they went to the airport the next morning. It was a crowded flight. People were going home for Christmas. It was a lot of hustle and bustle. Got on the plane. They flew over the Andes, which is often a point where you'll have a lot of turbulence and it can be a little dicey. But when they got over the Andes, they hit a massive, massive rainstorm, and lightning struck the plane and knocked the wing off, and basically the plane broke apart from around Julianne, and she fell 2 miles strapped in her seat. She crashed through the canopy and then hit the ground. She was the sole survivor. She lost her mother. And the next 11 days, with pretty severe injuries, she managed to get out of the Amazon on her own. And grown men and women who do training for Navy SEALs and other types of extreme survival situations probably would have been challenged to get out of the middle of the Amazon. She was in an area where there actually were really no indigenous people. It was smack dab in dense, dense jungle. So she had been educated very well about her parents, about this is your environment. In Panguana, they had lived, and she had been there many, many, many years, and she knew what to touch, what not to touch, and she had a very good kind of spidey sense about the jungle. And so she used that to work her way out.
Wow. All I can think about is how I was a Girl Scout when I was young, and like an iconic story from my childhood is that I brought a hair straightener to go camping, and my troop leaders were like, first of all, where were you going to plug that in? Also, why? It's just like you and other nerdy fifth graders. What are we doing? And so to hear a person live through what I'm sure is everyone's like worst case scenario, nightmare situation, and make it out on the other side. What an amazing story. Amazing story.
I wrote it very carefully because it's a story of survival, and the Amazon is a character in the story, but it's also a story of perseverance and psychology, because she's 17 years old and her mother, she's hopeful that her mother is alive, but in the journey, she discovers some things that really tell her the full story of what happened. And she's able to not only physically survive, but mentally survive, which I think I would have probably curled up on a riverbank and just let go. But she, every day, one step forward, step, until she worked her way out. So when I wrote the story, I knew there was so much to tell that I remembered being younger and having some books that would have magazines, you call them sidebars, but kind of like pullouts where you talk about a little bit extra about what you're reading. And I used that opportunity to describe a lot of things in the Amazon with a little bit more clarity, a little bit more information. And I remember when I was younger that I really enjoyed that, and I hope that they would really help enhance the story.
Yeah. What kind of research did you have to do for all of the just survival and science stuff?
Well, for the first round of research was I speak conversational Spanish and I can read Spanish. And so I was able to pull the Latin American and Peruvian archives and read the reports of the story from the actual time of the crash and then afterwards.
Wow.
And I did everything I could to get information like that. As far as the science aspect of it, the training I had getting the degree as a science writer, it was very handy because it was Johns Hopkins that awarded the degree, and I felt very blessed because they really taught me about how to dig into something, how to get papers, how to read papers, how to interpret scientific data, because I'm not a scientist. I had 2 years of undergraduate in science, but I changed my major to Russian, actually. And then,
wow.
And then, went on with my career and so forth. So they taught me really how to read and understand science, basically.
Yeah. So this is a middle grade book. So when you were making the choice, I mean, I guess I don't know how active of a choice it is where the reader falls for you, but to integrate something like a master's level reading of science and science literature, and then also thinking about how do we communicate this to a middle grade reader? How was that experience for you?
At first it was a little bit academic because I taught languages and English language learners for many years. And so there are like rules of thumb about lexicon levels and things like that when you write. But I honestly, I kind of just scooted that to the side, and I just wanted to tell the story. I told it in first person to try to give it immediacy. And I just went from basically a timeline approach and told it in plain language, keeping in mind that vocabulary usage would probably need to match the reader. So I told it what I thought was language that would be really accessible. And in my mind's eye, I was thinking maybe it could go down to fifth graders who were precocious all the way up into, high school readers. So the label of middle grade always just seemed kind of handy, because I know people have to market books, but I'm hoping that people from all stripes will be able to pick up the book and enjoy it. So that was something that I kept in mind.
Middle grades, like with YA, it's easier to kind of get that adult crossover even, where like it's written for teens, but even some adults will be like, oh, well, this sounds like an interesting story, I'll pick this up. Whereas with middle grade, it's kind of harder to do that because like a teenager is going to be like, oh, well, that's a kid's book, I'm not going to read that. And then the adult could even be like, oh, well, if they're already kind of not reading YA, they might kind of judge the middle grade. But I have found recently that I really enjoy middle grade books. Like there's plenty of middle grade books out there that are just really exciting, great stories with fantastic characters. And I feel like this is probably one of them because it's such an interesting story. And you have to kind of get into Julianne's mindset when she has experienced this really horrific tragedy and still is not out of the clear. Like that's the beginning of the story. And then she still has to figure out how to survive. I think survival stories, kind of everybody is drawn to that. At least I am personally. But
yes, and that's a really interesting comment, Eric, because I think survival stories for younger people, it could be a survival story in the mountain or something like Julianne's story, but it's informative to them about their own lives, I believe, because they can think about, well, this person went through this and I'm not doing that, but I have some really tough stuff I'm going through. And if I approach it step by step or with clear thinking, I might be able to get through it. And when I wrote the book, I was really intent on highlighting her observation skills, because I think that it's something, it's funny. You can't tell adults and you can't really tell kids straight advice because people just start to hear blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But if you can slip stuff in about, oh, look, Julianne was so observant and this is how it served her, that might be helpful. I also, at the end of the book, the back matter, I know I might have ended up having a science degree if I had had a mentor in science, or if I did steps to be a scientist. So I took the time to write some back matter in the book for kids about, hey, if you're interested in something, whether it be science or wherever, here are some steps you should take, and use these to go forward. So I really was happy to do that. And the other thing that I was really wanting to emphasize was her journey to continue Panguana and increasing the acreage, which is not easy in a country that you're a citizen of, but you're a dual citizen also of Germany. And you're kind of an outsider because she has spent most of her life in Germany, but she has worked so hard with the government to acre by acre by acre expand it. And it's become quite a substantial part of the Amazon now. Sadly, like a lot of places, it's facing some struggles. You might have heard recently about the gold mining that's going on in the Amazon, and the dangers of gangs and cartels and so forth. With the gold prices, they've really seen that it's a very profitable thing to do. And unfortunately, just about 2 to 3 weeks ago, Panguana had to temporarily shut down because they had some of these gangster type people shooting at the scientists, and the scientists are not fighters. So they evacuated them.
Oh my God. They're like, I did not sign up for this at all. Oh God.
Yeah.
Wow.
Scary stuff.
Yeah. And I like that it has such good ties to everything that's going on now. Like this story is one that you're telling that has of the past, but being able to also ground it in like there are still things happening in this environment now, especially honestly in the US. We have such a US centric education. And so telling a story really rooted in places that are not here is so important because I'm 32 now. As I get older, I'm like, wow, people who grew up in other countries just know about they know about the US. They like know about like things that I don't know if it would be exactly this, but they'll know about like, I don't know, the Grand Canyon, something like that. And if you gave me like $1 million to name like, 5 other things in other countries, other big like not landscapes, but monuments or whatever in other countries, I would struggle. And that's embarrassing. So it's great that you're writing a story that's rooted somewhere else and really giving it like the adventure that people are looking for, like the emotional roller coaster that people are looking for, and, also a whole other vacation away.
Yes, the United States is the 9,000 pound gorilla in the room. But so, other countries are going to know all about us. But you're so right, because if you don't have something behind monovision in your life, you're not going to really understand other people or the world. Unfortunately, in some cases, American education can be have a lot of blinders on and not really look internationally. And I think that's a really sad thing. One of the things I wanted to do with this book is that I believe that there's a lot of opinion being put forth in science rather than scientific rigor. And I want to stress for the readers that, she's a child of science and she survived because she used not opinion, but clear, logical thinking and got herself out of the jungle under immense pressure.
Yeah. Was there any of the survival tactics that you learned about that will like stick with you forever, that every now and then you're like, damn, that's so crazy?
Yeah, one that I remember from first reading about her when I was 17 is that she had worked her way through the jungle and gotten to a hut. And she had been, she had a lot of injuries on her, like open wounds. And while she slept, insects and flies would go to the wounds and they would, I'm sorry if this is too graphic, but they would lay eggs in the wound. Oh my God. And at first she wasn't 100% aware of it. But when she got to the hut, she realized that she had this situation of worms and she didn't know what to do. She tried to pull them out, but she saw a can of kerosene and she took it and she poured it on the wounds, forcing them to come out to try to get to oxygen, and then pulled them out. And when I read that back when I was a kid, I was like, how did she know that? And how did, but then later when I was doing my research, I found out that back when she was in the jungle living with her parents, their dog had that situation. Her father had showed her how to do it.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That is so wild. That actually is my nightmare. That situation is the worst. It's a nightmare that I didn't know I had.
Yeah.
So horrible.
There were
That's the kind of thing that makes me think that like there is some kind of, I don't know what in the world, because it's like to give her, like to have that moment for her as a child. And then all of a sudden she's like, oh, well, I'm remembering this because of this one thing that happened in my life. And it's like, that wouldn't have happened to me because that didn't happen. Like I would not have known. And I would have just probably freaked out and just clawed at it until I could get something. And that's horrifying. But that is one of the things where I'm like, okay, when, like, just to survive falling out of a plane that has fallen apart and landing in the jungle is insane. And then not only that, but you have things that have happened where it just reminds me of like a little bit of like the show Lost, where you get the little flashbacks to explain why this specific thing is happening in the plot. And it's like, of course, with a TV show, you have to do that. The writer has to put that there so it makes sense for the audience. But this was real life. So she had that little Lost flashback where she's like, oh, this is how I do this.
I think you've hit it on something really important in my life, and I believe it extends to everyone, and that is you have a timeline in your life, but it's also like a little string, and your experience from when you're young, while you might dismiss them or not think of them, they do pop up as you go through your life. And my case in point is I never thought I would be writing a story about her, but I had this experience myself in Peru, and I kept a youngster's eye view record of it, but it followed me through to my later life, and it became useful and handy to me. One of the things that is important to me about talking about this book too is that I am older. So I'm a lot older than you. I'm 64, and after I retired, I went back to school and I started a new career. And I want listeners and readers to know that as long as your heart's beating and you have a desire, don't give up on any kind of dream. Keep working your craft, your art. Even a different form of what your career was. There are so many opportunities, and you have so much ability as a person to realize things that a lot of older people say, well, I'm older now and I'll just be with the kids and the grandkids. Do that, but also keep those other dreams alive.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
mean,
love that.
There's so many people who, I feel like it's hard to, I understand it's hard to hope for something because it requires work. You can't just sit there and be like, oh, I hope I get this, and then just sit there and just keep hoping, because eventually if you're not working toward it and you're not, like, if that is not in your future and you don't see that somewhere, then it becomes really hard for you to sit there and keep hoping. So it takes work for you to sit there and say, okay, this is my goal, this is what I want to do, and this is the plan. And if that doesn't work, I have to come up with something else or I give up. And it's that come up with something else or give up that everybody kind of gets stuck on, I feel like.
Always have a plan B.
Yeah. And the plan B can be just, oh, I'm going to stop this for now. Like, that can be plan B. And then you can always revisit it. You can, like, obviously life is short, but hopefully you will always be able to revisit it at some point. And if you really enjoy it and if you love it, I think you will find that time to do it again. Kind of like when you found your journals. Again, it's like a fate thing.
Yeah, serendipity, strange hand directing life. I don't know.
I know we're talking about a book about science, but I keep bringing in the spiritualism of it. But still, I think they're both valid. So
there's like the invisible string theory. It's like everything that is meant to find you does, and it's like you're just sort of like following this unwritten path. And like, I'm not a very spiritual person either, but I do think it's so interesting to think about, and it is sort of like, it's sort of magical when you start putting all the puzzle pieces together as life goes on, and you're like, oh, actually, kind of like similar to what we were talking about, where all of these previous life experiences, you get older and you're like, oh, that actually is so helpful to me now. It's the dog with worms, and that just comes up over and over again in your lifetime, and it's so helpful. And it gives you perspective as you get older too, to think like, okay, the thing that I'm dealing with right now, maybe it stinks, but I know at some point in the future, I'm going to be so grateful that I did this, because it's going to either teach me to recognize when something doesn't serve me and I don't want to do it, or it'll teach me that I've actually done this before. I've done this, and I've done things that are harder than this. And so when this next challenge comes up, I'm going to rise to the occasion because I've done it before. And that's such like a beautiful experience in life. Like, I think sometimes about as people are getting older, like, really, it's like my friend group, as we turned 30, this was like a big deal. Everyone was like, I am no longer in my 20s. And it really feels like a shift. You're like, well, I'm actually a grown up now. And there's a lot of my friends who really freaked out. And I felt mostly okay with it, because I just was kind of like, I think we're all aging like a fine wine, better with age. And your 20s are so confusing and so hard. And then as you get older, you're like gathering all of this information and you're figuring out who you are, and all of the previous experiences are starting to make sense. It's just so much better. I don't even know how we got here, but
It's all right. It's all right.
Life's way easier after 30. It's like when you go through all of the mistakes of young adulthood, and then once you do hit that 30, you're like, oh, okay, my life isn't like as chaotic anymore.
Yeah.
At least it isn't for me. So maybe there's probably like a 32-year-old listening who's like, fuck you guys. Are you kidding me? My life is still chaotic and hard. It's like,
but Ellen, I think going back to school after you retired, you, I'm sure, learned a lot about yourself, like as an adult, as a person who's now gone through all these experiences and now going back to school. What was that like?
One thing that's easier is that you're able to accept challenges that you want to take on, and it's a lot easier to say politely, no, thank you. And I think when you're younger, you just say, oh, yeah, okay, I'll try that. And it's like, oh, why did I do that?
Yes.
But the experience gives you that ability. It was a class filled with some intimidating people. There were medical doctors and PhDs taking this to, like work on their writing skills. There were also people like me, and there were, with the type of career path that I had, more writing and teaching, and there were people in the program who were older. There were a handful of us. So it was a great mix because they were just fresh newbies who had just finished their BA all the way up to the older souls.
That's great. That's so great. I love it.
In the darkest corners of the internet, a nameless, formless entity has been growing. No one dares question where it was created or what it wants, but those who have been entranced by its musings chant its blood-curdling name in unison. Horror Movie Night!
Find Horror Movie Night on your favorite podcasting app or at hmnpodcast.com.
Remember when James Cameron nearly directed a Spider-Man movie?
What about when we almost got Batman Year One with Joaquin Phoenix?
Or David Goyer's Flash movie that would have starred Ryan Reynolds?
Well, if you want to learn about all the unmade superhero movies, then check out Superhero Stuff You Should Know.
Hosted by Ben Wan and Alex Ramsey, every month we cover nostalgic superhero movies with deep dives into unmade scripts, early drafts, deleted scenes, alternate cuts, concept art, novelizations, and tie-in novels.
We also interview the people involved in making the superhero films of our childhood, with our past guests including superhero actors, directors, screenwriters, and concept artists.
So remember, that's Superhero Stuff You Should Know, or Superhero SYSK on social media. Check us out on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
So when you were sitting down to write the book, how long did it take you to like sort of nail the whole story down?
It took me, the research probably took me 6 months, and then the actual writing probably took me another year, slowly. One of the things that I'm very proud of in this book is that it came to being before AI. ChatGPT was out there, but I just didn't pay any attention to it. And so all the research was off of Google Scholar and through the libraries and the library programs and networks. And then the writing, I used previously published material for research to bounce off of, but absolutely no AI to write this. So I was very, very happy about that. In my current writing, I use AI extensively for research because it is a amazing tool to just get what you want to learn about and so forth. But writers have to be so careful not to let that creep into the actual creativity.
Yeah. And is it like, have you found any issues with using AI to do research where it's making things up sometimes?
Yes. It's not my primary source. What I use it for is I need to, for example, find out about why planes get struck by lightning. And so you ask a generalist question, and then it gives you all these sources, and then you go to the sources and you figure out, well, is this, something that's useful?
That's something that I've been telling people who are like, oh, you just Google it and it breaks it all down for you. And I'm like, you have to read that. You have to like click those links and follow it to what source it is using. Yeah. Because sometimes it will just, if there's like comments on the web page that get a lot of likes, it'll prioritize that in the AI feedback to you. So it'll be like somebody's random comment on this website is all of a sudden being posted to you saying, this is how you can cure cancer using vitamin E oil. And it's like, no, that's not real.
It does, I understand the basics of AI and that it's a work in progress. And like Eric, like you say, people need to understand that. But something funny that happened to me, I guess it was maybe about a month ago, I was just fooling around on AI, looking for biographies of stars from the 40s. And it did Katharine Hepburn, and it told me that she was alive and doing well in Connecticut. I was like, oh.
Good for her. It takes the time that you do a Google search or an AI search, and they tell you the craziest thing, and you're like, I'm feeling like maybe we don't trust this so much. That is so funny. Well, to Eric's point, and this is like a little bit of a tangent, but I promise I won't go too long. To Eric's point, now ChatGPT and all of these AI search engines are just aggregating and giving. So like, it's great if you're doing something like, can you find me the best microwaves that are this dimensions and under this price, whatever. It's so good at aggregating information. But what it pulls a lot from Reddit, which is just a forum. So sometimes that's really helpful, but other times, like, anybody can log in and go on Reddit and just type whatever. It's like you're really pulling information from every single place. And now I recently was speaking to someone who works in marketing who said that brands are going to start going through Reddit because they know that people are using ChatGPT to do like any of their searching, their Googling, whatever. And so now they're going to start infiltrating Reddit. So everything's ruined on the internet. We can't have, nothing is holy or sacred. Reddit was the last place, and now they're infiltrating there too. But ChatGPT is such a useful tool. AI is such a useful tool. But it's also every now and then I'll reach for the AI to try and figure something out. And then I'll sit there and I'll be like, I actually can do this with my brain, and I need to not do this the easy way. And I need to use my brain because it just gets to be so easy. But we're all going to be veggies soon in the brain if we're not letting it do what it needs to do.
It's being born right now, and there's no ultimate knowledge God that can stop the little tangents that are incorrect. But it's going to, in my positive outview, going to be something so beneficial for mankind. It also is something that we have to watch out with the military industrial complex, but this is who we are as people. We play with fire.
Yeah. Oh, boy, do we. Boy, do we. So when you were teaching, was AI like even in the mix at all?
No. But sometimes I go back and substitute, and I've seen some younger teachers that are just fantastic using it appropriately, able to really engage the students, walk around the classroom with an iPad that interacts with the projection screen, and just immediately follows threads of questions and inquiry that are just so exciting in the classroom. But boy, they have to be trained. My generation and 10, even 20 years younger, they really need to lift their skill level up because the youngsters that are properly trained in this really know how to educate in the classroom with it.
Yeah. Yeah, even for the attention span purposes, my mom works in like a first grade classroom, and even for that age, she said she's noticed a difference in the attention span that kids are willing to offer in school, and I think it's just everything is so instant, and sometimes that really serves us because we're able to just do these amazing things in such short periods of time, and other times, we can't get a kid to just sit down and do one simple task because it's a whole new world.
Reading is so important. The cozy physicality of reading with your children, the body-to-body contact as you go through the story, and teaching youngsters to love reading, I think, is one of the keys to keeping us from being total AI zombies.
Yes.
That's why every kid in my life, I buy them books for their birthday and Christmas.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't care if you don't like it. Like my nephews, they're all getting older now, and they probably hate reading. But every time I'm like, listen, I'll give you a gift card, but you're also getting a book. And yeah, it'll have a gift receipt with it, so you can take it to Barnes and Noble and get a different thing if you want. But make sure it's a book.
Yeah.
Because I don't care. Even if you're not going to read it, keep it. And eventually, I think you will realize, you know what? I should probably read a little bit. I'm going to read this book that my Uncle Eric gave me. Okay, fine.
Yeah. Uncle Eric.
And I do try to make it like a book they're interested in. But this is one that I'm going to buy one of my nephews because he reads all of the like I Survived books.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think this is a great comp for. And it gives me another survival story to recommend that isn't just Hatchet. I feel like Hatchet has had like the survival, like middle grade story in a chokehold since the 90s.
That's true. Oh, yeah, the survival stories. I'm actually kind of an addict too. I remember starting off with the Andy survival story, which is, it's, people look at it and make it kind of oddly extraordinary in the graphic part of it, but the psychology that went on in that survival story is fantastic, and the Piers Reed book does cover that really well.
Was that one?
Sorry, go ahead.
Into Thin Air? Is that what that one was?
No, that's Krakauer. And that's also another really good survival story about the ill-fated climb up Mount Everest when so many people perished. And he was, I don't know if you've read it, Alyssa, but he was an admitted journalist on one of the teams of extraordinary mountaineers, but they hit a storm and some poor planning, and it's well worth the read. Yeah.
Wow.
I read that one in high school for a project in English, and I remember like there's like a couple slow parts, but like the parts where like you get really into like how everything just starts to fall apart and like the survival and everything. It was like harrowing stuff.
I know. So I'll ask you guys a question. Why do you think people are so fascinated with survival stories?
I feel like it's kind of like people who are like me, who like horror. It's like you like to see the worst case scenario, and it's like, if this ever happens to me, what am I going to do? Like you kind of watch things and you're like trying to take notes and catalog it in your mind, like the dog worms, but in a book or TV show. That's what I think.
Eric, you're like, it's for research, actually.
Yeah. I only watch it just so I know how to survive plane crashes or boat capsizing. Yeah.
Well, I think survival stories are an interesting mix of like fantasy. It's not fantasy, but fantasy in that like it's so removed from my day-to-day life of like living in, Los Angeles and like ordering a bagel from my phone and having it arrive at my door in 15 minutes. It's like, it's such a, like a departure from what our day-to-day life is now, where everything is so convenient and so comfortable. And I think even I like Victorian era history, that kind of stuff. Sometimes now when you're reading those stories and you're thinking about how people were living even 100 years ago, 200 years ago, you're like, and that's a survival story, because what are you talking about? No running water. So it's like to really feel the difference between what your day-to-day lifestyle is and a person who is taking every like human thing that they have to do is requiring thought and context and like information and knowledge about like how you actually do this. So I think part of it is that departure from what your day-to-day life is. And the other part of it is it sometimes just, even if it's not meant to be, feels like a thriller, because you're like, how is this person going to make it out of this whole situation? And it's every single piece of the human experience times a million in terms of, it's like on hard mode. Everything is like in a challenge. And it makes you realize how much of your life is convenient and how much of it you really are taking advantage of, because, oh my gosh, like truly, if I got dropped in a rainforest, I think I would last 6 hours, maybe. I need a snack every 2 hours minimum at this point in my life. So it would just be a hot mess express. So reading somebody else really figure it out is so inspiring. And it's just amazing that people are able to do that and have those skills. Because boy, do I not have them.
Julianne had on a mini dress. It was sleeveless. She wore a ring and a watch that survived the fall, and one shoe. So one shoe. Yeah.
Wow.
That is all she had, except she had her body, which was damaged. She was compromised, but the shock covered up some of her pain. And she had her mind, and that's all she had.
Yeah. Wow. So how long was it that she was actually in the survival mode of it all, from the crash to when she was
It was 11 days.
Recovered.
11 days.
11 days.
And as she lost track of time, so I did tell it on a timeline, but I wasn't able to go day by day because some of her days kind of melded into each other with her, even her own telling of it. So I did it incident by incident, and did have her, of course, go through days and nights. But at some points in the book, I could identify what day it was, and I would say on day 11. Or on day 7.
Yeah.
11 days. The water was, for us, it wouldn't be potable, but she did drink it. Of course, she had to. She had, interestingly, she found a panettone, which is a Italian kind of like Christmas cake. That had been brought along by one of the passengers, but it was really muddy. And that was one of the first things that she found. And because it was so destroyed, she just dismissed it and walked away from it when she started hiking out. But of course, later she's like, "Oh, I wish I had that panettone."
Yeah.
And she had,
and
she also found one bag. Oh, that's right. She found one bag of candy, and that's all she had to eat. It was not fruit season. It was rainy season, and she did see some insects, which were consumable, but she didn't have any way to make fire because while she had been trained how to make a fire, if you don't have any tools, it was so wet that she couldn't. So it was walking, drinking, parceling out her little candies, and trying to survive every day and every night. Wow. And one of the most brutal things that she encountered, there were many scary instances, but the insects at night, hordes, armies of mosquitoes would descend upon her. Just, you can't swat them. You're not going to swat a million mosquitoes. You just kind of have to hunch down and bear it until the morning. Later, when she was, analyzed for what was wrong with her after the ordeal, her medical examination, she did end up with hepatitis. And probably from the water, some viral infections, and of course, her structural bone problems had to be addressed. But she was covered with bites when she was rescued.
Unbelievable. But she's 71 now. I just looked it up. She's still, I'm sure, able to share her experience and tell her story. She's, this was not so long ago. Wow, that's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I hope that she does start to speak out more. One of the things that I was able to do was connect with her foundation, and they were quite wonderful. And I've decided that 10% of the book is going to be tithed to the foundation so they can help increase the acreage, because they do try and make it a larger area, but they also do education. They bring people in from the capital, Lima, and they help the local schools. And the foundation, they're wonderful to work with, and they're quite forthcoming. But she still doesn't really tell her story. And I'm hoping that, as time goes on, she might realize what a great educational opportunity for the world to learn more about the Amazon and to understand that this lungs of the world really is imperiled in many, many ways. And while we seem to be going through denial times with understanding about our planet systems and what we need to do to keep it thriving, this too will pass. And I think we need all the good voices out there to talk about what we can do in a positive way to sustain and keep our world beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, I love that. That's so wonderful. I know we talked a little bit about your writing process, but not too much. When you were writing the story, I assume we always ask if people are a pantser or a plotter. So, I assume for a story like this, it's so different because it's based on a true story. So there had to be some structure based on what she actually experienced. So I assume it was more of like a planner where you had like more of an outline of your day to day, her day to day experience to the best of your kind of ability.
Yeah, there was no plotting on my end because it's a true story. What I had to do was endeavor to be as accurate as possible and
Right.
not make things up, not insert things for drama. I have some introspection of interior voices in the book, but it's based on things that she wrote or said about what she was thinking or about what perhaps other people were thinking. Nothing is made up. It's all based on accounts. So, and because it was a timeline, it was very much, step after step. No plotting, just planning.
Yeah.
Was there anything in the editing process with your editor at Little Brown where where they were like, oh, it's getting a little slow here, or can you tighten this up here, things like that you would have to change?
Yes. Interestingly enough, I jumped straight into the story on Christmas Eve, and they said, no, wait. You have to give some backstory about her childhood. So I wrote the first chapter about her being raised by scientists in Peru and then living in the Amazon at the research station, which I think was a good addition. But I really just wanted to get to the story. And I thought the readers aren't going to want to read this. They're going to skip this chapter.
Right.
But I think it was a good call. One thing about the writing process, for all those writers out there, having an established publication house get hold of your material is an amazing experience. Those copy editors are so good. Those fact checkers, they will ride you up and down to make sure that you haven't made a mistake. And I had a lot of things I had to justify. I had to show them where I got stuff, and then I had to change some things because I made some mistakes. But boy, they're talented, and there's just nothing like it.
Copy editors are the most important people in publishing because they do all of the math that you can't do. They will, I don't know how, I think to be a copy editor, you have to have a steel trap for a brain because I'll get comments sometimes where they're like, oh, on page 74, you said this. And now on page 382, you said this. And it's contradicting. And also it doesn't really make sense. Do you want to readdress this? I'm like, yeah, of course I want to readdress it. Like, I didn't know that.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
And you'd get.
And I also love, like, if you're writing something that takes place in like 1902, they'll highlight something and be like, this word actually wasn't invented until 1937. Do you want to revisit?
Wow.
Yeah. They know so much, Melissa. It's amazing.
That's wild.
And Eric mentioned numbers too. They will get you on page count. They will get you on what type of measurement system you're using, whether it's acres or hectares. And it's just an amazing job. Amazing people.
Wow.
I
That's
love
truly,
copy editors.
that's a level of attention to detail that is just amazing.
They will also, I'm not sure if Little Brown does this, but at HarperCollins, they will give you a style guide when they submit your copy editing. And basically what that is, Alyssa, is it's like a 3 to 4 page document where any words that you have made up, any words that are like proper nouns, anything that like curses, they will list every single word and the way that they are spelling it for consistency throughout. And so in Better the Devil, I think I wrote abso-fucking-lutely at one point, and that was the first thing on my style guide was that is the spelling. They were like, we're going to hyphenate abso and then hyphenate fucking and then hyphenate lutely.
Love it.
It's like, oh, okay. And there's like certain words that like my character will just make up that's part of their voice, and they'll be like, okay, this is going to go in the style guide too, along with Burger King.
Along with Burger King.
Capital B, capital K, Burger King. That is how
Right.
this is in the style guide.
Perfect.
I love it.
Perfect.
So the first thing I always read, I'm like, what did we include in the style guide this time?
Oh, that's so fun. I'm not a writer, Ellen, so I'm just a reader. So all of this is so new to me. Every time I hear about these like little pieces of the industry and what this process is like, it's so fun and so interesting.
One of the things that was interesting too for me, Alyssa, was the art aspect of it. Eric, I don't know what kind of art you have in your books. This was conceptualized initially maybe using photos and then to ink line drawings, and we ended up doing that. And Caroline Church is a wonderful illustrator. She does the illustrations in the book. They are not complex, and I think that serves it because it kind of gives people a chance to look that up or let my imagination go with it. Big hairy Goliath spider. It's interesting, but what is now that I hear, what does it really look like? She's wonderful.
So tell us about what you're working on next. What's your next book going to be? I
am over the moon on this, and I've already gotten about a fourth into it. I mentioned that I have a degree in Russian, and I actually worked in Russia for a couple of years in my 20s, and I have decided to write a book called The Siberian, and it's going to be a young adult focused book this time, and it's the story of young people who, through a series of mishap and events, have to survive in Siberia, staying on the theme because I find that really is something I enjoy writing about. And one of the main characters in the story is an Amur tiger, which is sometimes known as a Siberian tiger. It's a fascinating thing to study. This tiger in Siberia was down to 40 to 50 in the entire species a couple of years ago. And it took a dictator to save the tiger, meaning Putin. He decided he liked tigers. Whatever you think of Putin, he has had a hand in helping these tigers come back. There are now possibly 500 of them now in the Far East. So learning about tigers and trying to survive in tiger country is going to be very challenging for these young people.
That's so cool. I love that.
I love that too. That's awesome. One day you're going to like up and leave and do one of those shows that are like where they drop you in the middle of the forest.
Naked and afraid. I don't think so.
Naked and afraid.
I'm the afraid part. I know what happens.
You and me both. You and me both. So what are you reading anything? Is that what you were going to ask, Eric?
Yeah, go for it.
On the same wavelength. Are you reading anything interesting right now?
Well, I am. There is a writer named Slate, Slaght, and he is a scientist who worked in Siberia with the tigers for many years, and he has a new book out, and I don't have it in front of me, so the name title slips my mind, but it's about his work with the Siberian tiger and his experience there. And he's a wonderful nature writer. He has a couple of books that are really fascinating, and I would suggest if you like a story like that, it's for you. Beyond that, a friend of mine wrote a cozy mystery. Her name's Jan Mary. And she wrote Sweet Tea and Anzac Biscuits. Fantastic story. And I never knew about cozy mysteries. I didn't know what they were. And I realized this is perfect. This is the perfect book just to read before you go to bed because it's going to be fascinating. There's probably going to be a murder in it, but it's not going to like get you really hyper with a lot of graphic details and so forth. So cozy mysteries are kind of my new discovery.
I love it.
Mystery.
You said it was called, it was Sweet Tea and what is it? Sorry. I'm putting it on my Goodreads.
Anzac is a play on Australia and New Zealand. And a cookie, biscuits or cookies there, that they made around the wartime. And delicious cookie.
Ooh. Awesome.
And the first one, was it Tigers Between Empires? Is that what it's called?
Yes, thank you, Eric. Yeah.
Just Googled it.
Fantastic book. So those are the two books I'm reading, kind of opposite ends of the spectrum, but that's what's good. I've gotten a lot into Audible lately, too. I don't know about how you guys go through your reading material, but what a fantastic thing. thing to be able to do books through your ears as you wash the dishes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's the
Fold
best.
laundry. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Stuck in traffic.
Yep.
It's perfect. I love
That's
it.
the LA for you.
Yeah.
That's what you get for moving to LA
I
and
know.
avoiding all this snow.
That's a lot of snow outside your window, Eric.
Oh my God.
Not looking forward to it. Oh, well. So Ellen, it was great talking with you. We can't wait to have you back on to talk about the Siberian when that comes out as well. Follow the Water. It comes out March 17th. So everybody, you can buy it wherever you buy your books.
Fantastic. I really have enjoyed speaking with you. I'm sorry we all live so far away. We can't go out and have coffee together.
When she asks me how far we can take it, I tell her we can take it across the entire universe. You are my universe, not just a planet.
Thank you so much for listening to our episode today. Wasn't that interesting?
Dog worms, baby. Kerosene. But I don't know if I even have kerosene. Guess I got to keep it on hand now just in case of dog worms.
Yeah.
I wonder if that works for every skin parasite.
Again, something that I hope to never find out. I hope to never be
like-
on the.
when you have to like decide between drinking water that is contaminated and gonna give you parasites or dying, it is a tough choice, I think, because like,
Oh my gosh.
ugh.
I didn't want to say this to Ellen because I think this is embarrassing, but I've thought about like if there was going to be a zombie apocalypse. I just said zombie, by the way. If there was a zombie apocalypse, I often think about how I probably would just like take the L. Like I'm not surviving that, but then you hear about stories like this and Julianne and how she was a teenager and figured it out. And I'm like, damn, I should have a little more zest for life. I should.
I feel like if it gets bad, your brain just goes right into autopilot and it's like, no, this is how we're gonna fight and survive this. And
Yeah.
you can
that's
try.
true.
You might still die, but your brain
Give
at
it a
least
shot.
makes you try.
Give it a shot. I know. I agree. Well, Eric, what are you reading right now?
So like I said the last time, I was gonna start it, and I started the Housemaid. I almost said Handmaid. I was like, no, that's not it. That's a different one. The Housemaid. And
How are you
it is
liking
a quick read. I'm like 100 and
Yeah.
some odd pages in, and I only started a couple days ago. So
Yeah.
it's very fast and wild. Like
Yeah.
just like I don't want to like spoil things for people, but like as I'm reading, I'm just like, I think day one I would be out of there. Like, I know she's homeless living in her car, but man, no, absolutely not.
Oh my God.
And
I
in my
know.
head, I'm like, well, maybe it's because she's young. Maybe it's because she doesn't have that like self-respect yet. And also she has been in prison. This might be the only option for her. I have to keep reminding myself because I'm like, get out of this house, woman.
I know. Ugh, you're reminding me how much I loved that book. I haven't seen the movie yet because people have
I'm
mixed
waiting. That's
feelings.
why I'm trying to read through it because I want to watch it. I love Amanda Seyfried.
Yeah, me too. People have mixed feelings about the movie, but I think having read the book either makes it better or worse, and I'm not sure which one. So I don't know.
Jennifer Dugan, who has been on the show a couple times, saw the movie, has not read the book, and she loved the movie. So
really, okay,
maybe it's better
I
to
trust
watch
her.
the movie. Ooh.
I trust her. Okay, I love that.
What are you reading?
I am reading. So I went to my TBR and I was like, you know what? I want a book that I've been saying I need to read, one that like a lot of people have read, whatever. And I just like for some reason haven't read it. And when I sorted my little list, the first thing that came up was Dark Matter, which I've never read
Lee
before. And
Crouch?
yes, I think so. And it's one of those books where I feel like so many people have read it. It really like had its moment. And I was like, okay, sure. I mean, a lot of people liked it. So I'll read that one. Oh my gosh. It is so interesting. Have you read it?
No,
good.
It's been on my list too. Maybe I should. Maybe this is the year I read Dark Matter.
It's good.
I
It's
know they
really
made
good.
a TV show out of it too, but
Oh, they did?
Yeah, I think I want to say it's on Apple, but I don't know.
Interesting. Well, I'm like flying through it. So it's really good. I like that a lot. And I also, a sex historian peer of mine wrote a book called Kinky History. And so I've been reading that as well. And it's so interesting. And so I've been nerding out on that one as well.
Or do they just talk about like when sex toys and stuff were invented and when the first like use of lube ever?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because basically I think her whole kind of thesis or the whole like purpose behind sharing stories about like sexual history is a lot of people think that like the human beings have really gone off the rails and like the way that we experience intimacy now is so crazy. And in reality, when you look back historically, like one of the golden ages of pornography was in the 1600s. So we've always been freaky little freaks, and it's not really new, and it really is in our nature. And also seeing the roots of like where some of the ideology of sex and sexuality being super, super private and, only for procreation and those kind like where that all started. It's super interesting and I've been really enjoying it. So Kinky History, I heard of her. I know her first name is Esme and I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but yeah. So that's what I'm reading now.
That. How exciting.
Yeah.
Well, listeners, tell us what you're reading. Go to YAOK Podcast on Instagram and send us a DM. Tell us what you're reading. Tell us if we should read it too. And what else do we say at the end of these things? God bless you.
Thank you. Sorry.
God bless you. The end. Goodbye.
Thank you so much. Yes, exactly. That's how we end the podcast. Now, God bless you. God.
Yes, I'm reading Kinky History. God bless you.
And by the way, God bless. Yes. Anyway, follow us on YAOK Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Tell us what you're reading, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.
Darkest corners of the internet, a nameless, formless entity has been growing. No one dares question where it was created or what it wants, but those who have been entranced by its musings chant its blood-curdling name in unison. Horror Movie Night!
Find Horror Movie Night on your favorite podcasting app or at hmnpodcast.com.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.